Hi all, Dr. Clark here. Today I'm going to discuss the biodiversity collection. So this is one of the major assignments for this course, and we're going to go through kind of how you go about doing the biodiversity collection, what are the requirements, and then just some information about how to find some details about the different organisms. Okay, so here you can see these, pictures of these different organisms. That's what the biodiversity collection is going to be for you. You're going to take original photographs that were taken by yourself, and if you don't have any, you need to get some. So you need to go out, take photographs. Of course, you don't have to be a professional photographer. You just have to take good photographs, and we'll talk about what a good photograph is here in a second. Guys, so let's look at, what's the requirements of the biodiversity collection. First of all, you have to collect 20 living organisms, or pictures of 20 living organisms. Now, what can these organisms be? These organisms can come from any kingdom. So it could be an animal from the Animalia kingdom, could be a plant from Plantae, could be a fungus from fungi, could be a protista, it could be a bacteria, it can be an archaea. It makes no difference to me what kingdom it comes from. The only thing that is required are these four things. First of all, the organism has to be wild. It cannot be cultivated. It can't be a pet. It can't be a houseplant. It can't be, anything that is associated with humans, I don't want. Okay? So you get a fly in a windowsill. Yes, I know that's not your pet, but that's not native habitat for that fly. Therefore, it's not going to count. Okay. So that's number 2. It must be native habitat. No in the hound, no in the house, no on the car, no on the roadway. It has to be native habitat. Yes, let's say you go to Yellowstone or something like that, and you take a picture of a bison on the road. No. Okay. The bison's native habitat is not man-made roads. Now, do they cross man-made roads? Of course. But that is not native habitat. They cannot establish themselves. They cannot live on that habitat. If the entire landscape was that habitat, they couldn't live there. Therefore, not native habitat, and therefore not going to count as a picture for the collection. It must be your picture, not your buddy's picture, not your parents' picture, but your picture. You took the picture. Now you might say, well, how's he going to know? Well, I've been doing this for a while, and so sometimes I'll see a picture that I'm like, hey, I've seen that picture before. And sure enough, someone else had turned that picture in. Or I've seen it on the internet. I belong to a lot of wildlife photography groups, and I see a lot of wildlife photography pictures. So if it's a extremely good picture, I'm going to probably check it out and look to see. Right? And on most people, I will do a random internet search. So I'll just pick a picture that I think is really high quality that is in your project, and I will Google pictures of that. And if I find your picture and your name's not attached to it, you earn a 0 for the assignment, the whole assignment. Right? You earn a 0. There is no sharing pictures. There's no stealing pictures. It must be your picture. This is really simple. You don't have to be a professional photographer, but you have to get out and take pictures of things that are alive. So that comes to the 4th piece. It must be alive. Right? No roadkill pictures, no dead trees, no dead plants, no dead insects. Right? It has to be a living organism that you're taking a picture of. Okay? All right. What are the requirements? First, it has to be a good quality photograph. Again, you do not have to be a professional photographer, but it has to be high enough quality that an individual like myself could identify the organism via the picture. So if you take a picture of a bird, a really small bird, in a tree from 25 feet away with your cell phone, and it looks like a brown dot, that's not going to cut it. Okay? That's not going to show any of the identifiable marks for the bird. The other thing is that picture has to be of the organism that you are writing the information on. And when I mean of the organism has to be the central object of the picture. So let's say you take a landscape picture, and down in the bottom right corner, really small, there is an American robin on the ground. Everything else is grasslands and trees and fence posts and things like that. But there's an American robin in the corner on the ground. That's not going to cut it. That's not the focal point of the picture. So you don't get to use the same picture for multiple species. You can't say, well, American robin, and then use the same picture the next time and say, oh, the other things are ponderosa pines, and then the next picture say, oh, that's Indian ricegrass. It's not going to cut it. Those aren't focal pictures. Okay? So landscape pictures don't do it. You have to have the object which you're writing about has to be the focal point. You need the common name and the scientific name of the organism. If you need help with identification and you have good photographs, you can always just email them to me. Note the exact location. Right? The exact location has to be recorded. Right? So I need the general location, as in, what town you're close to, or if you're in a national park, if you're in a state park, wherever, that information I need. But then I need the recorded UTMs. For some of you, you have no clue what UTMs are. Universe Transverse Mercator. Okay? This universal way of reporting where you're at on the planet Earth is what I need from you to write down. We'll cover this. I'll show you in Google Earth where you can get this information. Google Earth is free, so everyone has this information as long as you have a good idea of where you were at when you took the picture, or where you were at when you collected the organism. Okay? You can go back and easily find the UTMs. Okay? Date and time. I need to know the exact date and time the photograph was taken. Now, here's a kicker. You cannot use photographs that were taken before the year 2020. They have to be this year's photograph, or if you're watching this and it's 2021, it has to be the year 2021. Or if you're watching this and it's 2022, it has to be 2022. It has to be in the year that you're taking this course. Okay. Weather. You need to have a description of the weather. Was it sunny? Was it partly cloudy? Was it raining, sleet, snow? Okay. What was the wind like? 5 miles out of the southwest, 20 miles out of the southwest, 50 miles out of the west. What was the conditions? Okay. The plant status / animal status. So if it's a plant, you're going to tell me what's its status in the United States, and if it's got a local status, then that's needed also. So Let's say you take a picture of Indian paintbrush, okay, and you're in Wyoming. Then the status is, this is the state flower of Wyoming. Its status is common or abundant, okay, and that's your plant status. Let's say you take it somewhere else in, maybe a different state. Well, it's not going to be the state flower most of the time. It's not the state flower of that other state. So let's say Washington State. Okay? And maybe its status is different. Maybe it's near threatened there. Maybe it's a species of concern there. Okay, so wherever you took the picture, that's the status that you need for that organism. Animal status, same thing. Is it threatened? Is it common, abundant, etc.? Ecological habitat type. This is where a lot of students miss points. The ecological habitat type means you need to describe the ecology of the area. Where you took the photograph. Did you take it on, a hillside? Was that hillside facing north or south or east or west? Was the soils dry, moist? What kind of soils are they? Are they heavy organic? Are they, sandy soils, rocky soils? What were the other plants associated with them? With it? Was it grasslands? Was it trees? Was it forested habitat? This information is needed to complete the assignment. So how are you going to do this? How are you going to turn it in? Well, you're going to turn it in by making PowerPoint slides. 20 PowerPoint slides, okay? One for each species. And again, you're going to start with common name, scientific name, the exact location. So in this case, this picture was taken Little Mountain, Wyoming. Okay. This is the UTMs. 12T, 64365.10 meters east. Okay. And then its location meters north. The elevation, the date, the exact time. Okay. Yes, the time is written in what you and a lot of Americans call military time. This is not military time. Does the military use it? Yes, but scientists use it also. It's called a universal 24-hour time. Most countries report their time like this. So please stop calling it military time. It's not military time. It is universal time. One day, the United States will probably switch over to universal time. One day, they might switch over to stop reporting things in feet. But anyways, I digress. Okay, so partly cloudy. In this case, one day they might switch over to stop using Fahrenheit and start using Celsius. Okay, but for most of you, the reason why I use feet and Fahrenheit, because that's what's going to be reported to you. Okay, miles per hour, that's what's going to be reported to you. Now, feet, Fahrenheit, miles per hour, those are really easy things to change when the data goes into the system. UTMs is not an easy thing to change. You need to start with the UTMs, or you need to go into a converter and convert it to UTMs. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a second. Okay, so there's that information. That's the weather information. Now, what's the status of this plant? What's the status of wild rose? It's widespread. It's common throughout North America. Okay? So it's not a threatened or endangered species. It's very common. Right? And then the eco news, or ecology of the region. Plant was found in a small clearing with moist sandy soils at the base of a north-facing slope. Area is dominated by mixed coniferous forests, the understory consisting of wild rose, Oregon grape, and miscellaneous grasses. So now, that is a complete species, or a complete one example, one collection. Okay, so let's say you've collected that one, and then you took a picture somewhere else, and you have another collection. In this case, this is the focal point. Okay? It's the thing that's in the majority of focus. Okay? Monarch butterfly, or this, typically they're just called monarchs. Okay? Scientific name. Where was this photo taken? Blue Stem Prairie, blah, blah, blah. All this, okay, it was in Minnesota, different UTMs, okay, different elevation, different date, because it was a different day, different pictures. Now, you could have some pictures that occur on the same day, that's fine, but they're not going to occur at the exact same time. So if I go through and I see a bunch of same time, same day pictures, I'm just going to delete the 5 points for each organism you get. So right now, that's what it is. It's a 100-point assignment, 5 points for each organism. It may change in the future to not be a 100-point assignment, but right now it is. So each one of your slides is worth 5 points. Okay? If you misidentify the organism, drastically misidentify the organism, like it's not even close, you miss all 5 points. Okay? If it's close, but you just missed a single feature or something like that, it's a hard organism to identify from a photograph, okay, then I'll often just take a half point off. Same thing. If you're missing location, okay, and you didn't even try for location, it's minus 5 points. If it's a mess up in location, like you forget to add elevation, or something's messed up with your UTMs and it doesn't make sense, like you used the wrong locator. So instead of, in Minnesota, it's 14T, but maybe you use 12T because you were in Wyoming. And if you write 12T Minnesota, that means that you're saying that Minnesota is 12T, but it's not. Okay, in those cases, those are just mistakes in transcribing the material over. So those are half-point mistakes. Okay. Same thing with anything else. If you're missing the complete section, it's 0 points. You have to have a complete section, the complete data for each one of your species. Okay. All right, so let's jump into Google Earth, and I'll show you how that's kind of the usefulness of that, and how you're going to get your UTMs and your elevation for your different photographs. Okay, so we're now into Google Earth. Now this is what we call Google Earth Pro. Couple caveats, couple pieces of information before we get started. Google Earth Pro allows you to have it report where you're at in UTMs. Google Earth Mobile, I think is what it's called, or Google Earth app, that goes on a phone, might go on like a Chromebook or something like that, that will not allow you to report UTMs directly. So what you will need to do is get the latitude and longitude and then convert it over to UTMs using a converter. There's hundreds of converters on the internet. You're just going to type in the lat lon that's presented to you in probably minutes and seconds, or degrees, minutes, seconds, or there's a couple ways at which they will represent or show you, and I'll show you those here in a second. So let's say I was in, Little Mountain Wyoming. Okay, so say I'm Little Mountain, Wyoming. This is where I took a picture. Okay, and then I know that I took this forest road right here, and off the left of this bend, okay, I took the photograph here in this clearing. Okay, so if you look, my hand, the hand here on Google Earth is, spitting out a UTM at the bottom, okay, with an elevation of 9,049 feet. Okay, you can see it down here. Now, when I move the hand, it moves the UTMs and it changes the elevation. Okay, so you'll just need to write that down, the UTM coordinates and the elevation, when you found the place where you took the picture on the map. When you first open this, though, it's going to present this to you. So if you go over to Tools and you go to Options, okay, now this is where you can change things. And so, like I said before, I'm not sure what it's going to give you on like the mobile apps, or maybe you're using a GPS unit. Maybe you're using a different app on your phone, so you don't have to use Google Earth or something along those lines. But there will be ways at which it spits out data to you, lat long data to you. It could be decimal degrees. It could be degrees, minutes, seconds. It could be degrees, decimal minutes. So I think the default normally is probably degrees, minutes, seconds. So let me click on that real quick and show you what that looks like. Okay, so now I put the hand back and you can see, you can read down here, degrees, minutes, seconds. What's another one look like? Jump back in here real quick. And another way that they do it is degrees and decimal minutes. That's pretty common, okay, where they're not giving you any seconds. It's just the degrees and the minutes. Okay. And most likely you're not going to have a military grid reference system unless you're using a GPS that has that option. So here's one that's just doing degrees. Okay? And this is another one that a lot of apps will use. Okay? So no matter which one you use, the latitude and longitude will be given, okay, unless you're using UTMs. UTMs, you can just transfer it straight over to your PowerPoint slide to the location. But if you are doing the degrees, minutes, seconds, whatever it might be, you're going to need to take that and convert it to UTMs. So you're going to have to take that and put it into a converter that you can just Google and use for free. One key component, one key thing that you need to know is that when you use degrees or degrees minutes or minutes seconds, anything outside of UTMs, the longitude, if you're in North America, the longitude is negative. You have to make sure that you include that negative. If you don't include the negative, it's going to put you in Russia or parts of China, depending on where you're at in the United States. So when you convert it, make sure that you're putting that negative. Okay? So hopefully that's pretty clear on how to go about getting your exact location. Again, this is a big part of the assignment, is having the precise exact location where the photograph was taken. Okay, if you have any questions, of course, you know how to contact me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.